The automatic doors of Ridgeview Medical Center slid open at exactly 3:17 a.m. No. One noticed at first, they were used to strange things at night. Ambulances screaming in. Overdose cases, trauma alerts, broken bodies stitched back together under fluorescent lights that never felt warm. But tonight was different, because the first thing that walked through those doors wasn't a patient. It was a military canine, a German shepherd, wet fur, heavy breathing, scar across the left shoulder. Now tactical harness still attached, but no leash in sight. And behind him, 7 United States Navy SEALs. They weren't walking like men coming to visit a dog. They were walking like men trying not to lose one. The shepherd stopped inside the entrance. Rainwater dripped from his fur onto the hospital floor. He didn't look around like a lost animal. He scanned the room like a soldier. Left, right, exits, corners, people, threats, safety points, old training, deep training. A man in scrubs froze mid-step. A nurse at reception whispered without thinking, "Is that a military dog?" One of the SEALs stepped forward. "His name is Rex," he said quickly. "We need access to an exam room." His voice was controlled, but not calm. Controlled like a rope pulled too tight. Rex didn't move toward them. He didn't even look back. Instead, his eyes locked onto someone else. A nurse standing near the supply corridor. She was mid-30s, exhausted, hair tied back loosely, holding a chart she wasn't reading. Her name tag read, Nurse Alina Morshi, looked up. And the moment she saw the dog, something shifted. Not fear, recognition. Because Rex wasn't just looking at her. He was choosing her, ma'am, one SEAL said, stepping closer to Alina. "We need him secured now." Alina blinked. "Is he injured?" "No," the SEAL replied. "He's refusing orders." That sentence didn't belong in a hospital. Dogs didn't refuse SEALs. They obeyed. Always. Rex suddenly sat down. Right in front of Alina. Perfect. His posture. Still focused. As if the entire hospital no longer existed. The lead SEAL frowned. "That's impossible," he muttered. He pulled slightly on the harness. "Rex, heel." The dog didn't move. Not even a twitch. Alina took one step forward slowly. The SEAL snapped. "Ma'am, don't approach him. He's trained for combat zones. He reacts fast." But he stopped mid-sentence. Because Rex leaned forward and gently pressed his head against Alina's hand. The entire ER went silent. The sound of machines, footsteps, distant voices. Everything faded. The dog closed his eyes, like he had finally arrived somewhere safe. The SEAL's voice dropped. "He's never done that. Not once." Another SEAL stepped closer. "Rex, come here." The dog didn't even look at him. That was the first crack. The second came when the handler crouched down. "Buddy, it's us. Come on." Still nothing. Rex didn't move. He stayed with Alina, as if the command didn't exist, as if the past didn't matter anymore. The lead SEAL exhaled sharply. "This isn't normal behavior," Alina finally spoke. "What happened to him?" No one answered immediately. That silence said everything. Finally, the handler said, "We were deployed 6 months. Combat zone." He started. "Bonding too strongly with civilians during a mission recovery phase. After that, he changed." Alina looked down at Rex. His body was calm, but his eyes weren't. There was something inside them. Not aggression, not fear. Something closer to exhaustion, like he had seemed to. "Ash!" Rex suddenly flinched. A sound from the hallway. A metal tray dropping. The dog reacted instantly, alert. Rigid. Scanning. Old reflexed, old war. Alina instinctively placed a hand on his neck. "Hey, you're safe." The words shouldn't have worked, but they did. His breathing slowed. The SEALs noticed immediately. One of them whispered, "He only responds like that." 2 commands from the field. The lead SEAL looked at Alina carefully now. "Not as a nurse, as a variable. What did you just say to him?" Alina frowned. "I told him he's safe." The SEAL shook his head slightly. "That's not a command." Rex leaned closer to her, as if disagreeing. They moved to an exam room. The hospital allowed it reluctantly. Inside, Rex sat next to Elena's chair again. No. Leash tension, no resistance, just presence. The SEALs stood near the door, watching, calculating. The lead handler finally spoke. We came to retrieve him. Elena looked up. He doesn't want to go. That's not a choice he gets to make. The sentence was sharp. Military logic final. Elena didn't argue. She just looked at Rex, and then said quietly, he's not a machine. It hit something. Not the dog, the men. Because SEALs don't like hearing that. Rex suddenly stood, walked toward the door. The handler relaxed slightly. Good boy. But then Rex stopped, turned back, and returned to Elena again. Without hesitation, the room changed. Now it wasn't confusion. It was tension, because now it was clear. This wasn't disobedience. This was a refusal. One SEAL finally said it. He lost his last handler. Double quotes, silence. Elena looked at him. Lost. The handler exhaled slowly. Ambush extraction. Afghanistan border region. We pulled out. He didn't come back with the unit. Elena's eyes narrowed. So he's attached to me because you're the first calm presence he's accepted since then. Rex pressed closer to Elena. Not scared. Anchored like gravity finally made sense again. But something was still wrong. Because the SEALs weren't just here for retrieval. They were here because something had changed. The lead handler stepped forward again. He attacked another soldier 2 days ago. Elena froze. What? He didn't recognize him. It changed everything. Dogs don't just forget people. Unless something breaks. Deeply, Elena knelt slightly. Rex followed her movement instantly. Their eye contact locked. And for a moment, the entire room felt like it disappeared. The SEALs didn't exist. The hospital didn't exist. Only the dog and the nurse. Something unspoken passed between them. Elena whispered, "What happened to you out there?" Rex didn't answer, but he pressed his forehead against her shoulder and stayed there. The lead SEAL took a step back. He's not supposed to bond like this again, another SEAL added quietly. This is exactly why we were ordered to bring him back. Elena stood up slowly. No. Everyone looked at her. She repeated it. No, you're not taking him like this. The room froze, because that wasn't protocol. That was resistance. The lead SEAL's voice dropped. Ma'am, this is classified military property. Elena didn't move. He's not property. The tension thickened. Rex suddenly stood between them. Not aggressive, protective, positioned between Elena and the SEALs. The handler whispered, "He's choosing her." That was the moment it became real. Not behavior, not confusion. Choice. Elena placed her hand on Rex's neck again. Hey, it's okay. The dog didn't relax. He stayed between her and them, because now it wasn't about comfort, it was about decision. The SEAL commander finally spoke. If we leave him here, he won't function in the field again. Elena looked at Rex and went, understood. This wasn't just a dog refusing orders. This was a soldier who had finally found something he didn't want to lose again. A. Nurse rushed in. A alert. Incoming trauma case. Military convoy crash. The SEALs turned instantly. The handler went pale. Rex froze. Elena looked up. What? The commander stepped closer. That's his old unit. Silence. For the first time, Rex moved. Not toward the SEALs. Not toward Elena. Toward the hallway. Fast. Focused. Alert. The dog who refused to leave had just chosen something else. The SEALs followed immediately. Elena hesitated, then followed too. The doors of the ER burst open again. Gurney rolling in blood. Shouts. Chaos. Chaos. And Rex stopped at the entrance, completely still, because on the stretcher was a man, barely conscious. Covered in dirt, uniform torn, but still alive. And as the light passed over his face, Rex made a sound no one had ever heard before. Not a bark, not a growl. Something broken, something human. The handler whispered, That's impossible. Elena stepped forward. Who is he? The SEAL commander answered quietly. That's the man we thought died with Rex. Rex took one step forward, then another, slow, shaking, because the past he refused to return to had just walked back into the room. The hospital corridor felt different. Now, heavier, not because of noise, but because of silence that follows shock. Rex stood frozen in front of the stretcher. The man on it was barely conscious. Blood on his uniform, dirt in his hair, a breathing pattern that came in broken fragments. But Rex wasn't reacting like a trained K9 anymore. He was reacting like something deeper, like memory. The SEAL commander stepped closer. Clear the corridor, he ordered, but no one moved. Not the nurses, not the medics, not even Elena, because Rex had started shaking. Subtle at first, then stronger, like something inside him had snapped open. Elena stepped forward slowly. Rex. The dog didn't respond. His eyes stayed locked on the man. The stretcher rolled closer under emergency lights, and then the man whispered something, barely audible. One word, a name, Rex. The dog moved, fast, too fast. Asterisk, the handler shouted instantly, Rex Hill. But it was useless. For the first time since entering the hospital, the dog didn't obey. He ran straight to the stretcher. Not aggressive, not confused, desperate. He jumped up, placing his front paws carefully beside the injured man. Lowering his head onto his chest, the entire ER froze. Again, Elena covered her mouth, without realizing it, because Rex wasn't behaving like a military asset anymore. He was grieving. The man on the stretcher lifted his hand weakly. It landed on Rex's head, and that's when it happened. The monitor attached to the stretcher spiked, not medically, emotionally. Man whispered again. You came back? Rex let out a sound deep, broken, something between a whimper and a collapse. The SEAL commander stepped back slightly. No, he muttered. This can't be. Elena turned sharply. What is going on? Nobody answered immediately, because now the story had changed. This wasn't about refusal anymore. This was about survival. Asterisk, the handler finally spoke. His voice was quieter now. He wasn't just assigned to me. Pause. He was bonded to that man. Lena looked at the stretcher, the injured soldier. The commander nodded. Captain Mason Hale. Silence hit the room again. The name meant something to them, but not everything. The handler continued. Rex and Hale ran missions together for 2 years. Deep field operations, classified. Lena looked at Rex. His head was still pressed against Hale's chest, like he was holding him in place, like if he'd let go, he would lose him again. The handler swallowed. 3 months ago, we reported both of them missing in action. Lena froze. You said the dog died? The handler didn't look at her. That was the report. A long pause. Because we never found a body. Asterisk, the hospital suddenly felt smaller. Elena stepped back slightly so he didn't die. The commander interrupted. No. We assumed. That word changed everything. Assumed. Rex lifted his head suddenly. Alert. Again, but not toward the room. Toward something. Outside the glass doors of the ER, rain pounding harder now, storm intensifying. Elena followed his gaze. What is he looking at? Rex stepped away from the stretcher, slowly, carefully, then stopped at the entrance and barked once. Sharp, directional, intentional. The SEAL commander's eyes narrowed. That's not random. The handler whispered, He's trying to lead us somewhere. Elena looked between them. Lead you where? Rex barked again. Louder this time. A second bark followed. Immediately, urgent, command-like, the kind of bark that wasn't asking, it was telling. The commander made a decision instantly. Prep. Transport. The handler turned. Sir. The commander didn't blink. If Hale survived out there this long, something kept him alive. Pause, and Rex knows what it is. Alina stepped forward. No. Everyone turned. The commander frowned. This is military operation. Now, Alina pointed at Rex. You're taking him away again? Silence. Rex walked back toward her. Slow, deliberate. He stopped in front of her wheelchair and did something unexpected. He sat, not facing the seals, not facing the stretcher, facing her. The handler looked away because he understood what that meant. The commander exhaled slowly. He's chosen a point of stability. Alina looked down at him. You think I'm that? The handler nodded. He hasn't trusted anyone since Hale disappeared. A pause. You're the first stable environment he's responded to, Alina whispered. So what now? The commander answered honestly. Now, he leads us back. 40 minutes later. Rain. Heavier convoy-ready helicopter. On standby, Rex sat in the back of the armored vehicle next to Alina. Not restrained, not controlled, just present. The SEALs sat opposite, quiet, focused, but tension was different now. It wasn't about controlling the dog anymore. It was about following him. Alina looked at Rex. Double quotes, where are you taking them? The dog didn't answer, but his eyes stayed fixed. Forward, as if he already knew the route. The handler finally spoke. If Hale is alive, he's either hiding or trapped. Alina frowned. From what? The commander looked out the window. We're about to find out. Helicopter blades tore through the storm. Ocean below. Violent black waves. Rocky coastline, then an island. Small, isolated. Exactly. Like the fisherman had described earlier, Rex shifted. Immediately, alert, focused. Alina leaned forward. He knows this place. The commander nodded. Yes. The helicopter landed roughly. Wind screamed across the shoreline. Doors opened. Everyone stepped out, except Rex. He jumped. First straight into wet sand. Running, no. Hesitation, no command, just instinct. The team followed. Through rocks, through broken terrain, through rain that felt like needles. Rex stopped suddenly at a tree line, completely still. Alina caught up, breathing heavily. What is it? Then she saw it. A small camp, hidden, camouflaged, not abandoned, used. Fresh fire remnants, tools, supplies, supplies and footprints. Recent. The commander crouched. This is active. Rex walked forward slowly, then stopped at a cabin, hidden, wooden, damaged by weather. Alina whispered. He's here. The handler raised his weapon slightly. Careful. Rex barked once, short, final, and then he ran inside. Silence, then a crash, then silence again. The team rushed in. Alina followed. Inside, a man sat against the wall, bearded, thin, wounded, alive. Captain Mason Hale, and in front of him Rex, standing perfectly still. Not barking, not crying, just staring like the world had finally stopped breaking. Hale smiled weakly. You took your time. Rex moved forward, slowly, and pressed his head into Hale's chest. This time, there was no resistance, no confusion, only return. Alina stepped back slightly. The SEAL commander lowered his weapon. The handler closed his eyes, because everything they thought they lost was standing in front of them again. Hale whispered, he wouldn't leave. A pause. He stayed the whole time. Alina looked at Rex, so he wasn't refusing to go back. The handler finished quietly. He was refusing to leave him behind. Rex turned. Once, looked at Alina, just for a second, then returned to hold it as if confirming the mission was complete. The storm outside began to fade, not immediately, but enough. Like something had been resolved. Some soldiers are not made to follow orders. Some are made to hold people together until they are found again. And Rex had never disobeyed at all. He had simply been waiting.